So today's goal, the purpose of today's goal in Live, Learn, Grow is to overcome the negative energy of you can't and not allow it to deter you from your goals. Now, this applies to everything you can imagine. This applies to, if you're up here and you're screaming, whatever, it applies to that. It applies to the idea of you want to make it in fitness, you want to make it in your job, you want to make it wherever you want to succeed. Do not allow the words "you can't" to stop you. All right? It's very easy to let words put out your fire. Very easy. But you got to understand this. Your flaws, they're your fuel. You know what I'm saying? You get it? Your flaws are your fuel. Your missteps are the way for you to reflect on what you did wrong and then step twice as far the next time you go. Does that make sense? Catch me, you guys? Your flaws are your fuel. So you take the bad, the hard, the painful. You turn it into the great, the passion, the motivation. All right, I'm going to tell you guys a story. In college, my degree was for computer science. And in computer science, one of the core components of the degree is math. And math is my weakest subject. So I'm in my dorm, and in my dorm we happen to be organized by interest, so everybody was pretty much comp sci. And as we're going through these classes together, I'm struggling. And these kids that I'm with, I happen to have super smart friends. Everybody 3.5 and up GPAs, everybody was getting A's, but I was the one struggling. I was the black sheep who was struggling to understand the basic fundamental concepts. And they were like, hey, dude, listen, like comp sci classes I was doing fine, but they're like, math is a core component. It's like, well, if you can't understand the math part, maybe this isn't for you. This was the words that I heard. They were like, maybe you should consider another major. Maybe there's something else for you. But I knew deep down inside this was for me. This was what I wanted. And so I persevered and I struggled, and yeah, it took me twice as long as everyone else. Yeah, you know what? I had to fail the class once or twice before I finally got it. But I did it. And now, in reflection, I am so much further in my career because I had to struggle, because I learned that I had to grind my teeth against those textbooks till it made sense. Okay? You got to reframe the mindset. It's not that you can't do it. It's that you just haven't figured out how to yet. You understand? Not you can't. You just got to figure it out. You got to reframe your mindset. I'm gonna tell you guys a story I read that really, really showed me that people are gonna tell you can't do it. Stephen King. One of Stephen King's first novels was Carrie. And Stephen King, while he was writing, he was struggling. He wrote the initial copy, and he wrote 3 single pages, which was the gist of the book. Got upset with it, hated it, threw it in the garbage. His wife comes home, who was also a writer, finds it, reads it, and goes, "No, you got something here. You got something here. Don't give up." So he writes it. He finishes his first edition of Carrie, and he starts shipping it out to the publishers. Hey, guys, buy my book. Please help me publish it. 30 publishers rejected it. 30 publishers. Do you understand what it feels like to get 30 rejections on what took you blood, sweat, and tears? 30 rejections. He gave up. He was done. He was like, you know what? This isn't a book for me. This is not it. Goes back to teaching, goes back to living his life, realizing, you know what? Hey, the publisher said this is not good. You can't do it. You can't do it. This is not the book for you. Okay? One day, a publisher happens to call him out of the blue. And, I'm reading the story, and this was back then when telephones were not easy to access. So you had to go to someone's house who had one. So he gets this call, you gotta get to this phone, whatever. He gets to the phone, calls the publisher, and the publisher's like, hey, we loved your book. We want to put it out. He took "you can't," and he did not let "you can't" be the reason he didn't try. It took him 30 failures before he succeeded. Sometimes, no matter what you're doing, it's going to take 10, 15, 20, 100 failures. But that 101 time that you succeed, you're going to realize those 100 past failures were blessings in disguise. Because they made you stronger, they made you smarter, they made you more perseverant. "You can't" is not a phrase that you want to take in and internalize it as, oh, well, this means that I should change my mind, change my goals. If you're streaming streaming, media, anything you want to do. This is the easiest medium where there's so many people, it's so saturated, it's so easy to fall through the cracks. So when you're trying to do it, you might be failing, and you will fail. Failure is how we step, and people are going to be like, you know what? You can't do this. This isn't for you. But you keep persevering. I got a little parable to end this out on. There was a king, and he placed this boulder on a roadway, and he wanted to see who would move the boulder. Many people came, they saw the boulder, instinctively, first thing they did was complain. This boulder's big, it's hard, I don't want to even look at it, I don't want to touch it, who would have put a boulder here? Got annoyed, turned around and walked away. A peasant comes by carrying his vegetables, heavy, heavy vegetables. Sees this boulder, does not complain. Takes his burden, these vegetables, puts them down. Takes the boulder and starts pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and he sweat and he hurt and he gave everything he had, but he moved that boulder. And at the end, under the boulder, was a bag of gold with a note from the king saying, whoever moves this boulder gets this gold. You have this poor peasant who didn't even know that was the goal. All he did was trying to get by. He saw an obstacle and he got through it. He struggled through it. He didn't complain. He didn't give up. He didn't look at that boulder and the boulder's telling me, you can't move me. He said, no. You can't is not in my vocabulary. I do not comprehend those words. What I see is an obstacle, which just means it's a challenge for me to grow. And with that boulder moving, he grew. And you know what? The next obstacle he came, he's going to be more willing to tackle it because he struggled the first time. And every time you struggle and succeed, because you eventually will succeed, just how long you're willing to run that race. Every time you struggle and succeed, eventually you make it. Eventually, you get your little bag of gold. So, when someone says you can't, take that as the reason for why you can.